Another thing I am about is showing people that they can chase their dreams and it can happen. It doesn't matter if you're old like me, like just do it, like take a leap, just make it happen because you'll regret it later. And your dreams could come true. Look at us. We're like proof that you can jump and you can bloody get to the stars.
Hey lovely, Lisa here, and before we dive into today's episode of She Talks, I have got a little favour to ask you. If this podcast has ever made you feel a little bit more confident, a little bit more inspired, or a little less alone in this wild ride of running your own business, then I would love you to leave us a review on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you're listening. I know it sounds like a small thing, but it really helps get She Talks into the ears of more incredible women just like you, and it helps us keep bringing you the good stuff. And if there's an episode that made you go, oh my God, every woman in business needs to hear this, please share it with someone you love. Text it to your business bestie, add it to your stories, or drop the link in a group chat. However you do it, we are so grateful. All right, that's it from me. Let's jump in. What happens when a karaoke-loving mum with zero fashion experience builds one of the most followed brands in the country? In this episode, I sit down with Ash Tardrew, the heart and soul behind Sabbi, the colour-drenched fashion label famous for its viral tees and fiercely loyal community. From launching Broke to selling out collections in minutes, Ash shares the unfiltered truth about building a brand without a rulebook. We talk about the secret power of kindness in branding and how Ash balances business, blended family life, and a full warehouse without losing herself in the chaos. It's raw, it's real, and it's ridiculously inspiring. So guys, enjoy. Okay, today on the podcast, I want to go in and unpack your absolute cult following and the mega community love for Sabbi. For me, as like a product brand geek, it's been an absolute pleasure to watch you guys go nuts from the sidelines. And I definitely label your brand as a cult following brand. And I want to ask, Ash, like, what do you think the ingredients for this are?
People ask this, and I have no idea because we never planned it to be like this. We just kind of did what took it on each day. But I think maybe because it's like a positive kind of group, and I feel like there's lots of people that don't feel like they fit in. And me, one, I've always been awkward, anxious, and I've always doubted myself. So I just feel like maybe it's like a group of people finally feeling like they found somewhere that they fit in. So it was totally unplanned, but that's what I think has happened.
I think you're completely right about that. Like when I have a look at what you guys do, you don't follow the trends per se, you created a trend. And by attaching that, like, I suppose like a mindset and a life, almost like a life coaching aspect to it of like helping uplift people and make them feel good about themselves and make them feel connected to something. Because I think humans are pretty disconnected from each other these days and we kind of want to follow something or be part of something. I feel like it's more than just T-shirts and fashion. Does that feel right?
Yes, definitely. I feel like we created it, especially me in charge of quotes and stuff like that, just for things that I need to hear or I need to feel to make myself, I'm already getting emotional, just to feel like I'm enough.
Yeah.
So that's why, yeah.
I love that. I've never brought someone to tears in the first 2 minutes of a podcast, so I think maybe that you just made a rep of it.
Menopause, I'm perimenopausal. I think I've got a lot of things going on at the minute.
Probably you also have like busy woman syndrome, let's be honest, and it's real. And that overwhelm that sometimes happens just because you're trying to do it all, it can be a bit intense sometimes. But I do think that everything you've just said is true, and it is an accolade to you and Jace, because creating a community, I mean, that's to some extent what I think SheCom's magic is too, is that we're at its forefront, like at its number one, we're actually a community, and people want to be part of a community. They want to belong to something and they want to feel connected. And I think you sell things secondarily if you can create that connection first.
Exactly. People don't just want to buy a T-shirt. They want to feel like they belong somewhere and buy into like a feeling. That's what I feel anyway.
Yeah, and if the clothes they wear then adds to that and makes them feel good, it's like a double win, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And perhaps also, like, if we pull this apart a little bit more, I feel like your fashion has found a niche it isn't in a saturated space, whereas so much of the other fast fashion that might be have different looks, if you like, has got a lot of competition. I feel like you've created something that just perhaps didn't really exist, like on a design level. What do you think there?
when we started this, we were broke, so we couldn't afford anything. And the things that we did like were way out of our budget. Also, we like color, and both Jace, as you probably know, is a bit outrageous, and we're just a bit out there. So there's not that much out there for, bright color, like in your face kind of stuff. So we were like, let's just do it ourselves. And it seems that people were obviously feeling the same, because we get a lot of messages saying like they've got their color back, because it was very beige and blacks and neutrals that were out there.
And if we unpack that a little further, I think that is you guys giving permission to others to be a bit outrageous. And I think everybody loves the idea that we don't have to conform and be beige. And certainly I can see you've given permission to a shit ton of people to feel it's okay to be a bit outrageous. Like that's kind of almost, you deserve a community service award for that, I reckon.
Well, it's nice to be dressed fun. Sometimes you see someone in something funky and bright and you're like, I'm having a shit morning, but that you just look so good, and like you've brought a bit of sparkle to the room.
I think that's all, the ingredients of what you guys have done, a whole bunch of it. And I think the other piece that we haven't touched on yet, and I think it needs to be said, is that there's like a voyeuristic curiosity about the fact that you guys are a couple and you're building this brand. And I think people love, like, all you have to do is see my team talking about like maths or, life under the deck or whatever the hell all these reality TV shows are. Oh, I do. Clearly, I'm not watching. I think people are like interested. And so for our beautiful listeners, let's sum this up as a couple of things. I think let them see behind the scenes of a brand and the journey of launching a brand. Be super real about it. Like, you guys aren't saying, hey, we have trust fund babies and we just bought these ranges out because our parents dropped a whole bunch of money in our bank accounts, or whatever other versions people might have of this. You're like, we're fucking broke. Like, I love this. You're giving people permission to call it as it is. That's like a gift. Thirdly, you allowed people to feel that they can be a bit outrageous. And that is like permission to live a bigger life than they currently live. And you've created the community. And then I think the fifth bit, if we're really honest, is that you've also made it affordable. And that was really clever, a clever stroke of genius there, because all of those things combined with an affordability of people to be able to cult buy from you. So let's talk about that then. I'm going to ask you a stat. You may or may not know it, but like, what's the greatest purchase from a client? Have you got like someone who's bought like 47 t-shirts, or like what's it?
We actually called her last week. I think she has 68 orders.
That's mad.
Yeah, we gave her a voucher, but yeah, 68 orders. And people are always sending in videos of like just their wardrobe flick through, and it's literally just all the t-shirts and everything hanging there. And I just think, like, I think because I'm chained to my desk, or I'm at home with the kids, or at school sports. Now I'm seeing it at school sports. I don't see it out and about often, and everyone's like, oh, I saw Sabbi. And I'm like, I feel like I never see it because I'm either here or I'm at home. But it's just mind-blowing to me that it's out there and people love it. It's just crazy.
And that definitely, from an e-com brand perspective for our listeners, is a really important part of a brand, is having the ability to bring more product repeatedly to the same audience. So that means that every purchase isn't a cold new person you've had to acquire. Build a community and then get the cult following so that they can keep buying over and over and over again from you. Like, super clever ingredient. And let's talk then about limited edition drops. So I need to firstly say that I was like one of the very early lovers of Spell and the Gypsy Collective when they were in Byron. And, this is like 15 years ago when I used to, I don't know if it's like okay to say this out loud, but I did occasionally queue at like 5 a.m. when a new drop was coming outside the Spell boutique in Byron, because I lived in Bangalore. Like, talk me through how it works for you guys with limited edition drops.
I think the public created this limited edition drop, whereas we didn't. It was never limited edition. It was literally just, this is all we could afford to begin with. And so that's what we put out. And then as we got our name out there, it would just sell out. And then people would get quite annoyed at us, thinking that it was like on purpose, but it's literally like you have to spend all this money, take a gamble that someone's going to buy a shirt, and like have a guess at how many people are going to buy it and put it online. And so each time we were launching, we were increasing, but people don't know that. And then it would just sell out. And then it's like, okay, we'll increase again. And then it would sell out. So it wasn't like it was a plan. We never thought it was limited edition, but people are like, wouldn't you just order more? But it's a lot of money to invest in like thousands of t-shirts. And if they don't sell, then we've just wasted all of our money. So it's a balancing act, but it was never limited edition. People just thought it was limited edition. But yeah, it was just growing. Every time we had a launch, the amount of numbers of people waiting online that we expected would like double or triple. And then we'd be like, oh my fucking God, what? And then it would sell out. And then the inbox would be like, oh my God, guys, order more. And kind of would make me feel bad. But yeah, it was never a planned thing. That was not our marketing thing. But it was all
scarcity works. Like people love the idea that they might not get one. So they jump on and, make sure they're there for the launch. And so I guess not a lot of fashion labels do launch as well. I'll be honest. Most of the bigger enterprise level fashion labels in Australia now, there's no such thing as a launch anymore. It's have a new season, collection drops on the floor at a retailer and that's it. But you guys still work off the premise that you have a new range that's coming and you give them notice in advance and then it drops at a certain time. Like, do you ever envisage that kind of approach changing, or is that just kind of pivotal to keeping the community feeling happening?
I don't feel like we even get enough time to think about anything. So nothing is planned with Sabbi. Nothing is thought out. And because from the moment we've started, we've just been run off our feet. We've never had time to like sit down and think of any of this. So at the moment, we're trying to get people on so we can be more organized, but we've not even thought of that. Like I didn't even realize like what we were doing wasn't that different to what everyone else was doing. That's just how we've started, and I haven't even had a chance to think about changing it. So it just kind of works at the minute. So who knows what will happen? That's the thing with us. Who knows what happens?
Not broken, girlfriend. Don't fix it yet.
Yes, exactly.
And I want to ask you, like, you guys are a bit famous for talking about how broke you were in the early days of launching. What does it feel like now that you've got a greater cash flow coming through and you've got staff and a warehouse and, maybe the cash flow thing is not quite as critical as it was. Hopefully it feels better. Like, what does it feel like now to be able to buy stuff without having to worry so much?
I've lived paycheck to paycheck my whole entire life. And as we were starting Sabbi, we were like, Jace was not PayPaling. What's the for payment one? Like,
Afterpay.
Paying Woolies. And like, we were so broke. We even took money out of my home loans. So that was scary for me. Whereas Jace is very like, something will happen. Something will work out. But for me, I'm like my mum. I'm just like, I get my pay, I put a little bit away for this, I put it away for that, and then everything's accounted for. But Jace was like, let's just take the shot. So now it feels like not having to look at your bank account, not saying like there's oodles of money, but just being able to go to the shop. And I've said this before, but I could never buy like blueberries or raspberries or anything like that because they're too expensive. To be able to just buy that stuff and not have to think about it or have to like have a panic attack when the rates come in and think about how I'm going to afford that is like probably makes me a better mother because I'm not so stressed. Or that's one less thing I have to not worry about, because money is, especially in this day and age, money is a big concern, a big worry.
It is. And I think heaps of the ladies listening right now will be nodding their heads to this because we can all relate to having periods. I have had periods building, different product brands I've built where I've been at the cash register at Woolies thinking, I don't know if this is going to go through.
Isn't it? And then it goes, and you're like, just take that one out. And then you just feel like, I was so mortified.
I think though, like, I don't know if it's the Libran in me, but I've adjusted really well to a greater cash flow in the last few years where I'm actually quite comfortable in spending and it feels really nice. Like I definitely don't have a problem with it. I probably just adjust to spending to whatever's in the account, which is probably not a good thing.
Exactly. You spend to what you have, don't you? So that never really changes.
You do. So I want to jump over to a slightly different angle now. Like in the early days of Sabbi, Celeste Barber shared your brand. And I know that was a big moment because that opened up a new audience. And I know that, well, if we even jump back before that, you guys sent your lookbook out to, 500 or 600 wholesale stockists and retail stores trying to get wholesale interest. And I think you said something like 5 or 6 stores came back, and that must have been a bit crushing in the early days when you knew you were onto something with your label. Like, what were a couple of those moments that really shifted things for you in the early days?
Well, I would sit there with my notepad and I'd send like just email after email. But when someone did reply and say that they were interested, because you've sent so many and you're used to getting either nothing back or a no thanks, just getting one back was just like a big deal for us. And then when Jumbled, one of our stores, said yes, that was a big moment for us because they were so artsy and they were like a big known shop. I don't know if you've ever heard of them.
I do, in Orange Pip.
Yes, and they're just such lovely people. So when she replied, I was like, oh, like this is big for us. And I just knew if we could get it on eyes, then I just knew because I shared that this senorita needs a margarita to my personal Instagram, and so many mums replied back like, where did you get that shirt? Because it is a thing. Like, I felt like it's not for mums, but that shirt, it's like, God, I just need a break. Like, I need a bloody drink. And this day I want it to be done and wake up tomorrow.
Totally. And then Celeste shared
Celeste.
Yeah. Tell us about that.
So that was the worst week. We had Alan, our dog. I remember walking in and Alan had chewed not just a little hole, but the whole back out of the couch. Like, I've got a video of it, chewed the whole thing, and I walked in and we were broke. And then that exact same week, Celeste shared our little outfit, the linen one, and I'd sent it to her, and I wasn't going to, but I just thought, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to send it to her. I found her email address online. Her postal address online. I thought, I'll just take a chance. I'll fucking take a chance and just do it. And then the very next day, I was laying in bed and my phone popped up and it said, Celeste Barber mentioned you. And I was like, and my kids had no idea what I was doing. And Jace wasn't home and he wasn't answering. And I called Jace finally and he's like, just set it to pre-order. So I was on Shopify just changing it to pre-order, and that there was like thousands of people online. And that was the beginning of, I think, where we started taking off. And I think that was only a couple of months, maybe 1 month or 2 months into launching.
That's incredible. And I think a few of those pivotal pieces, you've had more famous people as well who've had moments as well. I think I read somewhere that, is it Fisher? And you woke up in the morning to like heaps of your absolute diehard clients going, oh my God, Fisher's wearing your pants.
Me and Jess like, what the fuck? It's like so exciting. And then to see him on that stage in front of, I don't know how many people he plays to, but with the hearts down the side, it's just like, wow.
You guys did that.
Yes. So it's like, it's just the crazy. I imagine it's what, like, if you were a music, like an artist and you heard your song on the radio for the first time, like that's what I feel like it feels like.
Proud moment for sure. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about supply chain then, so that every time you guys sell out, like as you've already said, you're ordering as many as you think that you can justify at that moment. Like what is it like in your warehouse? Tell us a bit about, you've got a team of 13. I know you've called it a red hot mess, but tell us a bit more.
It is, we're trying to be more organized, but there's a lot coming in at the moment. It's jam-packed full. But yeah, it's just, at the moment, it's full of all new stock for winter. So we're busy trying to plan out. Jason and I go to Italy because we're getting married in 3 weeks. Like, we just legally had our little thing, but we're actually getting married.
So congratulations.
Thank you. So we're frantically trying to, I've actually got to go down after this, and just, we're too full at the moment. So we've got to release. So we're just going to plan out everything and then just start trying to move the stock. And with jumpers, that takes up a lot more room. So we're just full to the brim right now. We need to start selling.
Yeah, totally. And Jace hand paints your prints.
Yep.
Like, that obviously has a really big part as well in the Sabbi's identity. So I know Jace comes from the background of Jace, the other label, right? Like the dress label. So, I wore Jace for a long time too, the other Jace label. Does that confuse you?
The florals.
The florals. I wore the floral maxis for a very long time.
Well, how do you know that? And they're like, Jace, as in Jace. I'm like, yeah, that's Jace.
Yeah, exactly. Jace, the label, is now Jace, part of Sabbi, the label. So how did his background, I guess, must have helped define you guys as a fashion label now?
Well, Jace has been in fashion since he was born into fashion. His dad was in ladies' fashion. So he's just loves ladies' fashion. He's got an eye for it. So that's helped him. And originally because Jace owns a factory in China, and he went there to set it up, and he still makes Jace for his ex, and like it's his ex's business now, but they still make for that brand. But yeah, that made us, with Sabbi, we have a factory to go to rather than having to try find a manufacturer. And another reason we're different to other people is we can move so quickly because it's Jace's factory. So we can just get a sample within like a week and then get it out within a month, whereas most businesses have to find a factory and then you've got to fit into their like time schedule of all the other brands. And yeah, it's made it so much easier having Jace have.
That's fascinating, actually. That's so interesting because you're right. Like speed to getting a product on, landed here can often be a long time, especially when you're doing like lots and lots of limited release collections. That makes a huge difference. So I think I read somewhere you guys do go up to China. Like, have you been up there and how did you find China? And do you?
I love China. We've been there a few times. We're actually going again in August. So we just go once before every season. So it just makes things happen quicker because Billy, who owns the factory with Jace, which is Jace's best friend, we can go there, find fabrics, come up with the design. They can make it while we're all there, make the changes and then just approve it. Whereas otherwise you're DHLing samples to each other, trying to get it right. And it just it can take ages. So going there and just making it happen is the quickest way to get it done.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think when you're there with them, you can make alterations and amendments and tweaks really quickly by actually just talking face to face. There's nothing replaces that. I recommend to all of our listeners to always go and visit your factories wherever in the world they are, at least once a year. We always did that with our nappy brand too. And it's amazing when you stand there and talk to the manufacturers and they go, well, actually, we did this for someone else. And you're like, well, show me. And then you look at it and you're like, dude, that's fucking genius. Put that in our product. But they won't bring that to you if you don't go and stand with them and ask them.
Yeah, and it can be solved so quickly. And then even the same day, they can remake a sample that wasn't quite right and then have it back to you that afternoon. So it's so much quicker being there than waiting for them to choose fabrics that aren't quite right when you can walk around and pick them when you're there.
Yeah. What if 60 minutes could change your business? You don't need another course or another free downloadable PDF. You need actual revenue generating moves that work right now in e-commerce brands in 2025. And that's exactly what a quick wins call with SheCom is all about. In just 1 hour, our expert coaching team will deep dive into your brand, your numbers, your marketing, your sales, and pinpoint the exact tweaks that can unlock more profit, more sales, and more ease as you grow. So are you ready for some quick wins in your business? Book your call now at shecom.co because the faster you take action, the faster you grow your revenues. Now, I want to talk about something a little bit different next. You have a culture of kindness for sure. Positivity and kindness does seem to be a bit of Sabbi's magic dust that you guys sprinkle. But you guys got into some negative stuff around Trump and Twitter. And whilst I don't really want to talk about Trump because he's not my favorite human on the planet, what I want to actually talk about is trolling and negativity. So one of the biggest problems that I find, and our listeners will relate to this, is that as women in particular, I can't speak for Jace here, but I'd love to speak to you as Ash and then me as Lisa. We sometimes play small because it's easier than playing big and then having to deal with trolling or negativity. And I had a Daily Mail article come out a month or two ago. I've lost 50 kilos, Ash, as part of my journey. I had a gastric sleeve and dumped 50 kilos. So Daily Mail did a big article about it. And just, all these fat, overweight men at home going, well, she doesn't look any better now. Or, are you sure that's real and not photoshopped? And just bullshit. And I think, God, we have a tall poppy syndrome here in Australia. When I spend time in the US, I'm always so uplifted by the idea of everything they say is yo, go girl, there's no it's a lot better in the States than it is here. But I guess bringing it back to you guys and Sabbi, how do you deal with that? Because you can't blow up virally and not get a bunch of trolls come out of the woodwork. How do you guys handle it?
I don't handle it. I am the biggest critic of myself. So then if I say at the checkout to someone, they say hi and I say good thanks, I'll go home and think about that all night and be like, oh my fucking God, Ashley, why did I say that? So to have people be rude or mean or say something negative or just an asshole message, it's I take it to heart and I get so upset. Jace is thank God. He's oh my God, fuck them. Who are they? Fucking idiots. Let's look at them. He always reminds me that it's their issue. It's not our issue. Not that that makes it any easier for me, but you definitely get a thicker skin. But I just don't understand why people want to bring other people down. I don't get it. It's if you've got something negative to say, why voice that to the world? Why not deal with your problems instead of taking it out on someone else? And obviously they see something in you or me that makes them feel bad about themselves. So then they feel like they got to tear you down. I don't get this world today, especially on TikTok, where they just think it's this space where you can just be an asshole to people and be mean. Because I just look with my kids, what's the future going to be like to them? It's horrible to see people hurting, and I don't know why you'd want to hurt people.
It's because you're a kind human that you don't see it. It doesn't make logical sense to you. And I suppose having been through a domestic violence marriage and seen so many of my girlfriends also go through that, I identify with these idea of like narcissistic humans. And there's lots of them out there. I mean, Trump is a classic example of a sociopathic narcissistic human, but they also, I suppose what they see in you, Ash, not that I'm a psychologist, but if I could share that back with you, is they see kindness and happiness and love and joy, and it makes them go a little bit Barney because they don't have those things. And so their job then becomes squishing you so that they can feel just for a little red hot moment slightly better about themselves. And it's sick, but it exists and it's horrible, and you don't understand it, nor do I, because we're not like that ourselves. But we're never going to be able to get rid of those people because they're everywhere. Like,
together, that's the thing. They band together in these groups, and that's where I feel it's so awful, and it's a powerful awful where they have when all that happened from this horrible person that knows nothing about Jace or why he follows Trump for tariffs, and everything he said about tariffs has all come true. And it's like, you don't know anything about Jace just because of who you follow on Instagram. You think that like you have the right to just put it out there to the world and say that's who he is. It's just, I don't get those people. I just think they're very sad.
Well, I feel like watching you guys on socials, I have to say that it doesn't look like you've let it diminish you. Like the idea that somebody might say something, you're still, being outrageous and happy and living your best life. And I'm guessing now that you have such a cult following, they probably defend you fiercely so that you don't have to. Do you find that exists?
Well, I know when that particular incident went down, they did. And we don't want them to be unkind to other people, to stand up for us. We're not about that, and we don't condone that. But yeah, we do have a beautiful, supportive community, but we definitely don't like people taking other people down. Everyone's got their own opinions, and everyone has different thoughts and different ideas, and the world would be boring if we all thought the same. So I just think let people be who they are.
Yep, I agree. And tell me, like you mentioned TikTok, are you guys finding success in showing your authentic brand on TikTok, or is it mainly Insta?
God, TikTok is like a minefield of who the fuck knows how that works, honestly. One video that you film for 2 seconds that's the shittest video ever goes off, and then one that you think, oh, this is quite entertaining, is like does nothing. It's like we're trying on that, but we do seem to get a lot of business from it. So that's one thing I would say. It's fucking scary. The people on TikTok can be awful, but it is good for sales if you're thinking about that. It's good to be on TikTok, but honestly, just drop it and then get the fuck off there and don't read anything, because it can be, I don't know, it's like an awful trolling world where they've got to like, these days, if you get something and you don't like it on your product, like you want to return it or there's a mark or something, I would just email the business and return it. But these days they go to TikTok, or they threaten to go to TikTok, and it's like, I don't understand this world anymore. It's a very, very upside down world.
I know, and I think I show my age when I say that, but you're definitely younger than me. So maybe it's just that some of us are kinder than others. Tell me a little bit about global expansion then. So clearly Australian market is loving what you're doing and it's going off here. I know you've entered some other markets, but how have you found that and what's your plan?
Well, US is going really well, and then the tariffs have come in, and God knows what's going on there at the minute. That there's a pause, I think, for everyone in the world. But yeah, US was really good. NZ, amazing. So we're just planning on just taking it as far as we can. But also I say to Jace, I can't grow too much that I have a nervous breakdown. So right now I'm comfortable where we're at, and I still want to be able to be there with my kids. And I just don't want to be always thinking about work when I'm with my kids and thinking about my kids when I'm at work. I just want to find that healthy balance, and I don't want to get too big that it can't be like that. And I also want to keep that small business vibe where people feel like we care, because we do care.
I love that. And I think you're absolutely on the money and asking the right questions there. There is a risk if you go too hard and too big that you lose connection to the people, because you're not always showing up on socials. You start to hire other people to do it. And so suddenly you're not the face of the brand anymore. And it becomes a bit corporatized. And as you said, like I sometimes joke inside my team too, like, how much is enough money? Like, surely there was a book that someone wrote, and it was like, literally, if you could get $10 million for something, that's all a human could ever spend in a lifetime, really. Like, I mean, sure, you could probably spend more, but you don't need more. And I think, sure, it'd be great to sell for a lot more than that. And there's reasons why, but I do think it's really important to bring it down to like how much is actually enough. And at what point are you prepared to compromise on that by, as you said, I have a teenager too. When are we not going to be involved in our kids' lives if there's a risk? My daughter said to me last night, I've had a couple of resignations in a department in my business. And so I've stepped back in for a minute to try and take that over, as well as the other projects I juggle. And I'm joking this week, I'm a bit like Vegemite smeared too thin on a piece of toast. It doesn't actually feel very nice. It's a bit of a salty life right now. And my daughter says to me last night and again this morning, Mum, I think you need to have a think about your priorities. Maybe you're actually working too hard and it doesn't suit you because you look really tired, and I don't really want this tired version of you, Mum. And I was like, got cross at her. I'm like, listen. And then I asked her to do something and she was like, well, I don't have time to do that. I'm like, so don't tell me, blah, blah, blah. I got into this little feisty thing with her, but she's actually fucking right. Let's be honest.
It is. When your kids say something to you, I reckon that's the worst. And then you're like, oh, and then that's when I feel the most guilt. Like when my kids have said something to me, or when I'm stressed here at work or something's happened and then I take it home and then you're in a shit mood and then you're snappy at them and then you finally put them to bed and I just say to Jace, I feel like a fucking asshole because I'm not happy today at work, then I'm taking it out on the kids, and that's when I don't want it to get like always to that. I know we have our bad days, but I don't want that to be a permanent thing.
And so let's talk about that then. What kind of balance between home? Well, let me reframe that question. Balance is a funny word. I actually just had a founder on the potty tell me recently that she's removed the word balance for the next 2 years from their business and said, actually, that's a myth and I'm going to get rid of the idea that there is such a thing. But she is also involved, as in has a relationship with her co-founder. And I know, having done the same in my nappy brand, that's complex. So you guys work together all day and you get home at night and then you switch from business owners to parents and husband and wife. Like, what have you learned in this space that gives you some kind of sanity or clarity?
I honestly think this helps. Jace is not the father of my kids, so we've not had kids together. And you know that resentment that you can sometimes get when they're not doing the same. So I feel like that kind of helps in our situation. But Jace is also so different to me and he's so relaxed. He's so everything I'm not, he is. So he is just picks up the slack when he can see at home. Like for some reason, when it's messy at home, I just can't think through it. I don't know if it's like an ADHD thing, but
I've got the same thing, girlfriend.
Fucking wrench before I can even like breathe. And then so I just see him in there cleaning. And he's just like, obviously knows I'm about to have a breakdown, but he is so one in a million. I say this like I'm not just saying this, but he's just so good to me. But I always say to him as well, though, he always wants to talk about it work at home. And I said, Jace, we need to stop talking about work. We need to have a relationship. We need to have sex. We need to wine and dine each other. Like we can't just bring it home and then continue on like that. Otherwise we're going to be business partners and I don't want a business partner.
I love that. And you're 100% right. Sex and dates and romance, there's got to be room for that stuff in our lives. It isn't just always about work. I think those boundaries that I know, even if you don't work with your partner and you're listening right now, I don't have boundaries either. And my husband, I will find myself at 5:30 in the morning when we do our daily beach walk. We walk our dogs on the beach at dawn every day. And
doing stuff like that is so good.
Right. But I end up using him as my like soundboard. And I'm like, and then this happened at work and I feel like I should do this. And what do you think? And he's a little bit sounds like your Jace, my PG is, which is he's my anchor and I am the balloon on a windy day. And he just calms me right down and he talks me through it. And then he's like, let's just hold hands and talk about our holiday that's coming up for a while, will we, honey? I'm like, okay, let's do it.
I need that. Otherwise it's just, and I think that's where you can lose each other if you don't just like have those little moments together. So that's why I'm so big on, like, we need to stop talking about work and we need to like put Below Deck on or something and just laugh and like have that fun as well.
Yes, completely. So, Ash, I've got 5 fast questions I want to ask you now before we wrap the podcast up today. By the way, I was on a podcast with the US this week and I said something potty, something. He goes, what? And I said, what do you mean? He goes, did you just call it a potty? And I said, yeah. And he goes, I said, don't you say that in America? And he goes, no, but I'm stealing that. That is fabulous.
So I call it.
Yeah, I call it a potty. It's my potty.
It must be an Australian thing.
So colloquially Australian. And when I look back on it, that does make sense that only we'd call it a potty, mate.
We yeah. Everything, don't we?
So on the potty, Ash, the last thing I do is 5 fast questions, and they're a snap answer. And I would love to ask them of you now. So one word to describe you that would surprise people.
Anxious. I don't know. It probably doesn't surprise people. Karaoke. Lover.
Brilliant. That is a good answer. One word to describe running a business.
Insane.
Yeah. First thing you do when you feel stuck.
Stress. Get upset. That's what, yeah.
Mine would be eat Tim Tams as I pull like 2 Tim Tams off my desk.
When Jace is stressed, he just inhales food. I'm the opposite with that.
Yeah. Tell me a brand you're obsessed with right now, other than Sabbi. Or maybe it is Sabbi. Someone on the podcast last week said to me their own brand because they're like, I'm obsessed with it, you know?
No, what? I bought some stuff recently and I love it. Elsie Swim. I've just bought some stuff for Italy and I'm obsessed with it. I was wearing it yesterday.
Epic. Biggest business lesson in a sentence. Like, I know this is a hard one to summarize because, you know, you guys have been on quite a wild roller coaster, but is there a business lesson that stands out as the one that kicked you the hardest?
I think it might not even be a lesson, but it's just like a business thing. Just do it. Like, I know we're about positivity and kindness, but another thing I am about is showing people that they can chase their dreams and it can happen. It doesn't matter if you're old like me, like just do it. Like take a leap, just make it happen. Like, cause you'll regret it later and your dreams could come true. Look at us. We're like proof that you can jump and you can bloody get to the stars.
1,000,000% you can. It has been such a pleasure to chat with you today, Ash. And to our listeners, I know I rabbit on about subscribing to our podcast at the end of every episode, but I just found out this week that if you are subscribed to podcasts and you're in your car listening to podcasts, it will automatically bring up your next favorites and play them for you if you just want to stream back-to-back episodes. So head on over and make sure on Apple and Spotify you hit subscribe to the She Talks podcast, and we will see you with a new episode next week. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of She Talks. I hope today's conversation sparked ideas, gave you strategies you can put into action, and reminded you that you're never alone on this journey. If you loved this episode, head over to shecom.co for today's show notes, exclusive freebies, and special offers from our sponsors. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe so you never miss a future episode. Until next time, keep showing up, keep building, and most importantly, keep talking.